Hello, Lee, Samantha, and Nancy, and hello, VMworld attendees. My name is Jason Kyzer, and I'm a senior consultant in the federal practice at VMware. I want to tell you about a concept for a service that we could provide from VMware for our customers. This presentation is a result of many conversations I had with my friend Sean Trotter back in Omaha, Nebraska. And this service could bridge the gap between a well-formed VDI strategy and a fully provisioned user desktop. I have to show you this slide for some legal reasons. This is an idea of a service that doesn't really exist yet, but it could. You guys will see this slide at all the vBrownBags. And specific to APaaS, I want to make sure that you know that this is truly just a concept thunk up by a couple of guys in Omaha, Nebraska over a couple of beers. We were trying to solve the problem that we have seen in on-prem Horizon deployments when it comes to managing applications. Even though it's a good idea as a concept, it's not a good idea to delve into these products using the advanced features and unpublished APIs and other things that we've done in our labs to get this to work. You could fall out of support and cause all kinds of problems in your environment. And although we were being careful, we haven't yet tried this on an actual customer. And if you do, there might be some unforeseen consequences. So just be careful. To use APaaS, you will have to have the SDDC stack with VRA and VRO, along with the Horizon and application presentation software like AppVolumes. This service is primarily targeted at on-prem deployments of Horizon in commercial and DoD. So, I love VMware EUC products. Sean and I talk about them all the time. We like theorizing about EUC capabilities and how they could be used alongside our automation processes to orchestrate at a large scale. This presentation is about Application Packaging as a Service, or APaaS, and it hopes to highlight the incredible capabilities of these products and package them into a subscription-like service. We have looked at the assessment service and the design and deploy service and the AirWatch services, but none of these are truly set up like a subscription for on-prem. Wouldn't it be great if VMware could offer a service like this for the most critical portion of EUC? Applications, applications, applications. Lots of products present virtualized or streaming apps, but we leave it to our customer to present applications based on their users after Horizon is deployed. The success of Horizon deployments depend almost in whole on the capability of the enterprise to connect users to business data using apps, especially for on-prem. I've seen timid users that attempt to use Horizon desktops for the first time, and what they do first is they double-click on an icon on the desktop to see if their application works just like it did on a physical desktop. We typically sell Horizon. We'll do a design and deploy service with architecture and servers and load balancers and images and vSphere and clones and lots of really fun things. But then we leave and the customer is left with the responsibility to continuously provide users with apps that are constantly updating because of new versions or modification requests, vulnerabilities, interoperability challenges, and different sets of users needing those apps. Most of our customers have some sort of application management system, but they're reluctant to make changes to it, so it might affect their mission. So they sacrifice, for the most part, these other responsibilities that they might have about applications for the sake of their mission. They want reliable access to their data through apps, and they will typically just make sure that it works and leave it as is. But the hunger for up-to-date applications is only going to get faster on a more regular basis. Amazon releases new code every 3 seconds, and Firefox released 29 major releases this year. Our friends in Redmond release patches once a month that has the potential to turn a regular Tuesday into a real nightmare for an administrator. And it's only going to get worse with cloud operating systems like Windows 10. So we need to provide customers with the agility to deal with these demands. I think it's our responsibility. This is an APaaS presentation, but you might be asking yourselves, why do we need this? Is this even necessary? Don't the users already know what they're using? Don't they already know how to install and deliver them? Definitely not. In fact, most of our customers don't update their applications outside of a recompose of their image. The adoption of application virtualization technologies like AppVolumes isn't that high, but it could be and it should be. Think of the incredible level of effort we're asking our customers to own when it comes to applications. They need to test, they need to know which users are using which apps, and they need to know how to install and test and deploy applications. Even if our customers don't mind installing the applications directly on their images, which of them really knows about their usage, how much it costs, and how to group them together so that they can be presented efficiently? There are persistent issues at a lot of customer sites when it comes to applications that their users have to work around. Think of the number of applications that require a different prerequisite for Java or Flash, or some applications might only work after you run another related program. We all love virtual desktops, but it's the applications that really make the Horizon deployment usable. And it's the area that the customers struggle with the most. So how does a customer get from a VDI strategy provided by VMware to a fully provisioned user desktop with all the apps each user needs and none that they don't? You have to use a set of tools to discover or find that one guy who knows everything about a user or a customer, like my friend Sean Trotter. You'll be lucky to find that person during the deployment. The answer is that you need a process to gather application data. And you need to decide which applications to deploy on certain machines for certain users. You have to do this efficiently and using a repeatable process. And that's something that VMware already does. We already have the VMware End User Computing Assessment Service with Lakeside SysTrack. The output of this tool is manually reviewed by PSO using application rationalization techniques, and a set of decisions are presented to the customer. But we don't typically share any of this information because of the nature of on-prem work. The assessment service feeds the design and deploy service, where we deploy Horizon alongside application virtualization software like App Volumes. We create the app stacks for the user, they test the VDI service with the apps, and if everything runs smoothly, the entitlements from the customer decisions are implemented and the customers can start using it. But after we deploy the service, think about the enormous responsibility that we are making the customer take on. There is a ton of things to do. The customer has to present new or modified applications to different groups using the correct deployment method and the correct operating system image. They need to develop and test and deploy the applications with limited downtime. They need technical resources that understand the operating system images and security policy and app volumes and FinApp and RDSH and Workspace ONE, and they need to know how different application prerequisites can interfere with each other in order to avoid affecting applications presented from the same medium. Think of the potential knowledge gap at the customer site. If we give them a VDI strategy and deploy Horizon, but then we don't help them with their applications on a continual basis, aren't we doing them a disservice? If we don't do this, they won't realize the true value of Horizon. So another bad thing that could happen if you don't continuously update your applications is you run the risk of being infiltrated with malware, or over or underpaying for licensing. You limit users' capabilities by not enabling critical business features of the software, and they're more likely to call vendor support. They're more likely to call on the phone and say, hey, my application isn't working, what am I supposed to do? So how can we guarantee that the applications are installed in a repeatable way, and how can we make sure that they're going to utilize the service in the correct way, such as App Volumes or ThinApp? Just to be clear, Sean and I don't think that the customers, all computer guys, don't know how to use the service, but we do know that they're busy, and we do know that this is a kind of a niche set of skills that most people don't have, or most people will learn once and then not pick it up for some time. So doing it over and over again, it takes a lot of time. At VMware, we have an army of PSO folks who know how to package and deliver applications. But we only take advantage of this knowledge when we do engagements. We already know which applications behave well with others and which ones we don't. We already know that certain applications work better on certain platforms. And we already know how to deploy application prerequisites and how to perform customized application installs with a script. But what if we were able to capture that value in the subscription that we offer to our customers? Pretend that you're a stakeholder at one of our customer sites and you've been charged with connecting users to business data with apps. In phase 1 of application packaging as a service, you can execute a VRA catalog item that will automatically deploy Lakeside SysTrack or stratosphere. When the metric collection period is complete, the data is uploaded to the APaaS site and analyzed by our customized set of workflows, either in the cloud or in the case of DoD, we could present it as a vApp, so all this analyzation could happen inside their environment. These valuable metrics determine the options that could be for deploying customers' applications. Just like in the Horizon Assessment Service, a PSO representative analyzes the output from these tools and presents the potentials to the customers, cross-referenced with any customer-provided license metering. And we can feed that into a cost center in VRB, so we can integrate the solution with some other vRealize products. But now to the cool tech part. Phase 2 would utilize a library of common applications that would be modularly stacked into a set of applications that will belong to the same application delivery medium. Each application would be paired with a small piece of code called a shim. And the output from phase 1 is used to automatically group these applications together and generate a holistic shim. The prerequisites, the software bits, and the shim are downloaded as a package into the user's environment via a catalog item request. Then the package is used to automatically create the consumables based on a reliable deployment method that is secure, supportable, and will meet performance expectations. Then the entitlement groupings from phase 1 are implemented and the applications show up on the user's desktops. This library could be consumed as a part of a service, a full bore service, such as starting with a brownfield analyzation, or we could have it as part of a self-service catalog that we would offer to customers via a different subscription level. Something that Sean and I talked about a lot were users who maybe don't need systrack assessments and they just need this tiny part so that they could either respond quickly to zero-day vulnerabilities or just to have one-off applications in the case of a small business. But all of our customers are pretty much just packaging the same applications. They all have Office and browsing and data analysis tools, so why segregate all of this work at each customer site? A centrally managed repository of common applications that we can provide support for has huge potential value. A part of the service will be the automatic delivery of a set of test machines into a private portion of the customer's network using NSX for its testing and feedback or further customizations. Once the customer approves it, the consumable is fed into production. But we wouldn't expect our customers to be willing to subscribe and deploy immediately, especially if they already have a Horizon deployment that users are interacting with. But using VRA, we will present the testing option through the parent ZAS blueprint to stand up machines that mimic the interaction with the customer's environment so that they can make sure that it will work with their internal group policies and license servers and security policies. Now pretend that a certain period of time has passed and there are new security vulnerabilities, feature requests, and enterprise modifications based on business requirements. Instead of calling up your application packager lady and making her spend all this time repackaging applications and redoing all these entitlements with a new license key, wouldn't it be nice if she could just submit the request in VRA and have everything update automatically? More specifically, imagine you're a CIO of a DoD entity that was just notified of a zero-day vulnerability and you have that application deployed to all your users. APaaS enables the rapid delivery of the updated software automatically. Another example would be an enterprise that uses an application that has a high licensing cost. With APaaS, they would be able to constantly monitor that application's usage, and they would be able to know who's using it, what, where, and make adjustments on the fly. The VRA workflows would integrate with another amazing VMware product, VRB. And using APaaS, enterprise could match their licensing costs to their usage in real time. This potential service, potentially, has a lot of potential. But how do we accomplish this? I'll go over what the business process is first, and then I'll do a short technical deep dive. And fortunately for us, we already have the people with the knowledge to accomplish this. Organizing these competencies into a service will take some effort, initially on the analyzation of application usage metrics without interaction. This is not a huge undertaking though. I mean, do you remember Capacity Planner? With that product, we were able to upload our capacity requirements and it would spit out some customized information that we would use in Capacity Planner. But the point is that automating this phase of the service would be fairly simple. In fact, a lot of people have already done it. There's a lot of examples on the internet. No matter how much we automate this process, though, manual intervention will still be needed. Some value can't be provided via script. But what Sean and I are trying to eliminate is the repetitive work that occurs across client sites. We could start small in the library, maybe only browsers or Office software. A flavor of each application deployment method and for each operating system will be needed with values that will be fed from the user's VRA catalog item request form. And over time, this will grow quite large. And fortunately, we have an in-house DevOps team that will help us to create these packages and walk through the process. But one of the main advantages of this service is supportability. Normally, support folks have to start troubleshooting at 0. If someone calls me and says, hey, my Firefox is broken, I ask, okay, where did you install it? I start at the beginning. But if you have all of the information about how the application was installed, all the prerequisites, they were all available to the vendor support, they would be uniquely equipped with the details so that they could begin to assist the users. We would have to be careful about this, about the manner in which we install the applications in the library. The advantage presented by APaaS is that this process only has to be followed once instead of doing it on all customer sites. And all this cloud stuff is great, but in reality, there are some customers that will never be able to utilize online services like this. Some of our largest Horizon customers utilize services that are on private networks only. And that's why a vApp could be presented to do the same type of analyzation. They would clean the data to make sure there's no customer-specific information, then upload that into the APaaS system to use the same service. And now it is nerd time. You can tell how much I love PowerShell here. Don't forget that this is mostly a theory, and the capabilities I'm about to talk about have only been built in labs. The automatic deployment of the metric collections is certainly feasible. We've already talked about it a little bit. It would involve a VRA catalog item that would grab the latest version of SysTrack and deploy it into a customer's template. Then we would deploy the agents with a script or an API call and wait for the metric collection period to finish. Another VRA catalog item would publish the results to a disk or directly to the APaaS site. During the creation of the application consumables, we would have to keep interoperability with other consumables in the same medium paramount. The requests of the results of phase 1 will say something like, I need 3 apps on RDSH and I need 1 Workspace ONE app, and put the rest on app volumes. When we receive the request, the system will combine these applications and shims and the prerequisites into a single executable so that we can test and then guarantee that the apps will behave the way that they're supposed to. But how do we get an app from the library and present it to the user? And depending on the delivery mechanism, the mechanics will be slightly different, but I'm going to walk through an example with app volumes and Windows 10 using the shim. But wait, what's a shim again? Gaining popularity of VMware is the idea of a shim. It's a tiny piece of code that customizes our products. There are already GitHub repos with shims for Log Insight and other products. APaaS uses shims to make sure that all the prerequisites for installing an app are present on a machine before the installation begins. This code can be injected with a VRA catalog item request using software components. And it would also provision or power on the machine used to record app stacks. Then it will call the App Volumes API to make sure that that machine is online. It will create an app stack and provision it to the machine. When the app stack shows up and the machine is in recording mode, the code will make the computer think that an user is logging on and has been simulated with some special sauce in the background. The shim runs the install script, and then it will reboot to make sure that the application is installed correctly before completing the install according to app volumes. Then we have our app stack with our apps on it, and we're ready for the testing or for the rest of the workflow to entitle the app stack given the output from phase 1. So this is kind of a flow chart of where things would go. Everything in green is a manual process. Everything in blue is automatic. On the VMware side, we would be responsible for creating the library that has the shims, the prerequisites, and the bits from the vendors. The customer would initiate an automated install of SysTrack using a VRA catalog item. Once we got the data from the automated SysTrack installation, we would analyze that application data the metrics would tell us what apps are needed where. This is always going to be a manual process because sometimes the computer won't know that these 4 applications are PDF readers. And it won't know, for instance, that different sets of users can be grouped a certain way to make it easier on the entitlements. Then our application rationalization folks from PSO will present the customer with a number of decisions about how the applications are going to be grouped. And that's where the fun part starts, because once they agree on what the decisions will be, the modular shims, the prerequisites, and the apps are packaged. And then the package is selected from the user as a manual process in VRA, and then it is deployed. That's when we have testing and feedback happening. Hopefully they just test once, everything works fine, and they deploy directly to production and entitled users. But there is that possibility of creating a feedback loop if an application doesn't install the way that we were hoping it would. So why do we want to do this? Wouldn't it be great if we could order up an app like you're ordering up a pizza? Sean Trotter and I have been through multiple pizzas and multiple rounds of application rationalization and virtualization with customers in DC and Omaha. Each of these have been a very manual, non-repeatable efforts. And taking lessons learned from customer to customer is very difficult due to the nature of on-prem work. But think about the value we could provide if we were able to take that from one site to the other. Think of what we could do if we genericize the information while querying the user for the information specific to them. I want anchovies and my software license key and install it on the D drive. It's the aggregation of this effort that we are trying to accomplish. We know how great VDI is, and we know the potential value it could provide to our customers, and we know how apps work. APaaS takes all that great work that we already perform in services. It combines it into a set of automated processes and connects users to their data using a repeatable process through a subscription. I'll take my pizza every Thursday. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd appreciate it. Let me know what you think.